My name is Linda Lester. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed that being steady meant being valuable, reliable, chosen. I was wrong. When I think back on it now, the warning signs weren't subtle. They weren't hidden. They were everywhere, stacked on top of each other like dominoes, just waiting for the moment one fell and sent the rest crashing down. But when you're inside a relationship, you don't call them red flags. You call them compromises. You call them patience. You call them love. Or at least you convince yourself you do. At the time everything unraveled, I worked as an IT consultant for a mid-sized tech firm in the Pacific Northwest. Nothing glamorous. I didn't design apps or pitch startups. I fixed things when they broke. Networks, servers, cloud systems. When a company's operations went down at 2 a.m., I was the one getting the call. It was a steady paycheck, good benefits, the kind of job parents nod approvingly at during holiday dinners. That steadiness defined me. I showed up. I followed through. I didn't create chaos, and that approach carried straight into my relationships. When I committed completely. No half measures. No, let's see where this goes. I didn't keep backup plans or flirt with exits. If I chose you, I chose you. That's probably why I fell so hard for Nick Carter. Nick was 27 when we met, a graphic designer with a creative streak that felt electric compared to my structured, methodical world. He noticed details I missed. He talked about colors and typography, the way I talked about systems and logic. We balanced each other, or at least I thought we did. We'd been together 2 years, and for the last year, we lived in a cozy, downtown apartment with exposed brick walls and oversized windows that flooded the place with light. Nick loved that apartment, loved photographing it, loved posting it online like it was proof that his life was finally taking shape. From day one, I thought we were building something real, the kind of relationship where the future feels inevitable, engagement in a couple of years, a house with a small yard someday. I'd even started quietly saving for a ring, tucking money away every month because I wanted to be ready when the time came. What I didn't realize was that I was the only one drawing that future. When Nick and I first started dating, his life was unraveling. He'd been freelancing for a startup that burned through its funding and disappeared overnight, owing him nearly $4,000. No warning, no final payment, just silence. 2 weeks later, an eviction notice showed up. I remember him standing in my kitchen, holding that piece of paper like it might bite him. He tried to laugh it off, but I could see the panic in his eyes. His rent was due, his savings were gone. He didn't know what he was going to do. I didn't hesitate. I covered his portion of the rent for 3 months straight, $1,800 a month, while he got back on his feet. I told myself it was temporary, that this was what partners did when life got hard. I helped him redesign his portfolio website, spending my evenings teaching myself basic design tools so I could help bring his vision to life. I connected him with contacts through my company's marketing department. I drove him to interviews when his car was acting up, sitting in parking lots for hours while he pitched himself to agencies. The car became another problem, a transmission issue he couldn't afford to fix. I took it to a mechanic friend, covered half the $800 repair myself because Nick was already stressed about money. At the time, I thought I was being supportive. I didn't realize I was teaching him that I would always catch him before he hit the ground. Eventually, things stabilized. Nick landed a position at a small design agency downtown, a regular paycheck, benefits. The stress lines around his eyes softened. He could cover his expenses again. We slipped into a comfortable routine, Sunday mornings with pancakes I made while he slept in, movie nights on the couch, weekend trips to nearby towns when our schedules lined up. I thought we were solid. I thought the hard part was behind us. I didn't notice how often I was the one holding everything together. That's when Talia Brooks started appearing more often. Nick had known Talia since college. She was his ex-girlfriend, but he never framed her that way. Ancient history, he said. We're better as friends now. She's basically family. Talia was everything I wasn't. Outgoing, effortlessly charming, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make people orbit around her without trying. She worked in sales at a tech company and lived for social events, networking nights, weekend getaways. The first time I met her was at a group dinner with Nick's college friends. She arrived late, made a dramatic entrance, hugged everyone like she'd known them forever. When she hugged Nick, it lingered just a second too long. I noticed. I also noticed how easily she slipped into his space, how naturally he leaned toward her, how she finished his sentences like it was muscle memory. When I asked about it later, Nick laughed. Linda, you're reading too much into it. Talia's like that with everyone. I wanted to believe him, so I did. They started spending more time together. Coffee meetings, lunches, networking, at least twice a week, sometimes more. Whenever I brought it up, carefully, never accusing, Nick shut it down immediately. You're being insecure, he'd say. We have history, sure, but that doesn't mean anything is happening. Don't you trust me? That question always landed like a trap, because if I said no, I was the problem. So I swallowed my discomfort and told myself I was being mature, secure, reasonable. I ignored how his face lit up when her name popped up on his phone. The smile that used to be just for me. I didn't realize yet that I wasn't his first choice. I was just the safe one. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. That's what you do when you're the steady one. You assume logic will eventually calm emotion. You trust consistency over instinct. If nothing had technically happened yet, then nothing was wrong, right? That was the story I kept telling myself as Talia Brooks slowly moved from the background of Nick's life to the foreground of mine. Nick insisted she was harmless. She's just outgoing, he'd say. She's like that with everyone. But I noticed how often everyone somehow became just the two of them. Coffee meetings turned into long lunches. Lunches turned into quick drinks that somehow lasted all evening. It always came wrapped in a reasonable explanation. Networking, brainstorming, catching up. Creative people stuff. I worked long hours. Emergencies didn't schedule themselves. So when Nick said he was meeting Talia after work, I told myself it made sense. I trusted him. I trusted us. What I didn't trust, though I couldn't quite admit it yet, was how invisible I felt standing next to her. Talia had this way of making herself unforgettable. She talked with her hands, laughed loudly, made eye contact that made people feel important. When she told a story, people leaned in. When Nick talked, she listened like every word mattered. When I talked, she smiled politely. I noticed how Nick watched her when she spoke. Not the way you watch a friend. The way you watch someone you don't want to miss a single detail of. The comparison started quietly. After a work party I attended purely out of obligation. Standing awkwardly near the snack table while Nick worked the room, he sighed on the drive home. Talia's so good at those things, he said casually. She just connects with people. You kind of fade into the background. I laughed it off, or tried to. Sorry, I don't treat networking like a performance, I said. He didn't laugh back. A few weeks later, I planned a dinner date. Reservations at a restaurant he'd mentioned wanting to try for months. I even coordinated it around his schedule so he wouldn't feel rushed. Halfway through the meal, he checked his phone and smiled. Talia surprised me with concert tickets last week, he said. Didn't overthink it. Just bought them. She knows I love indie bands. I waited for him to thank me for dinner. He didn't. Instead, he added, You always plan everything so far in advance. It kind of takes the fun out of it. I stared at him, fork hovering midair. The restaurant was fully booked for weeks. That was why I'd planned ahead. But somehow, logic didn't matter. The comparison had already been made. And I'd lost. It spread like a slow infection. My clothes. Talia always looks so put together. Maybe you should update your wardrobe. My hobbies. Gaming is kind of immature, don't you think? Talia spends her weekends at galleries and wine tastings. Even my work stories. You tell the same things over and over. Talia always has something exciting to talk about. Each comment was small on its own, individually deniable. Together, they chipped away at something I hadn't realized was fragile, my sense of worth inside the relationship. The worst part was how Nick framed it whenever I tried to speak up. You're being sensitive. You're overthinking. Why are you making this a competition? I wasn't competing. I was trying to survive. Social media made it impossible to ignore. Photos of Nick and Talia were everywhere. Coffee shops, art openings, farmers markets, candid shots, laughing, inside jokes and captions I didn't understand, comments from strangers calling them goals. I scrolled back through his feed one night. In the past 6 months, there were maybe 4 photos of us. In 2 of them, I was partially cropped out. He never tagged me, never mentioned me. It was like I existed in his private life, but not his public one, like I was something to be kept quiet. Meanwhile, I was the one paying for date nights, covering weekend trips, helping him replace his laptop when his died because work depended on it. I told myself I was paranoid, because that's what Nick told me. If something was wrong, I thought, I'd feel it clearly. But I already did. I just wasn't ready to name it yet. The wedding should have been harmless. That's what I told myself when Nick mentioned his cousin's vineyard wedding, an hour outside the city. Outdoor ceremony, string lights, live band. The kind of event people romanticize for years afterward. Nick was close with his cousin, and I'd met most of his family before. His parents liked me, or at least I thought they did. His mom once told him I was good for him. His dad and I bonded over his car restoration hobby. I'd felt included. So when Nick buzzed with excitement about the wedding, I was excited too. I rented a dress I knew he loved, bought a thoughtful gift, a custom photo album for wedding memories, even practiced dancing in the living room because he always teased me about being stiff on the dance floor. But as the day got closer, something shifted. Nick became irritable, snappy. Everything I did seemed to annoy him. "Don't wear that color," he snapped when I showed him my dress. "I want to drive," he said sharply when I offered. "I don't want to be late." Small things, individually meaningless, collectively unsettling. And then he mentioned Talia would be there. Her family's friends with my cousins, he explained quickly, like he'd rehearsed it. It'd be weird if she wasn't invited. I nodded. I told myself I could handle one day, one event, one reminder that she existed in his orbit. The morning of the wedding, Nick barely looked at me. He was glued to his phone while getting ready, smiling at messages he didn't share. At one point, I caught a glimpse of the screen. Talia had sent him a meme about weddings, something sarcastic. He laughed out loud. I didn't. The ceremony itself was beautiful. The vineyard stretched under a clear sky. His cousin's vows were heartfelt. Nick held my hand the entire time. For a brief, stupid moment, I thought maybe I'd been wrong about everything. That illusion shattered during cocktail hour. Nick pulled me aside near the bar, away from the clusters of guests. His expression changed. Tight, controlled, like he was about to manage a situation. "Linda," he said quietly, glancing around, "don't embarrass me tonight." I stared at him. "Embarrass you?" "You know what I mean," he sighed. "This is really important to my family." My chest tightened. "What exactly are you worried about?" He hesitated, then said it. "Talia's really good at mingling. She knows how to keep conversations flowing. You're quieter, which is fine. But tonight, I just need you to blend in." Blend in. "Don't monopolize people with work stories," he added. "Let Talia take the lead when we're with my relatives." The words felt unreal. "My job?" I asked slowly. "The one that's paid for half of our life?" "Don't be dramatic," he snapped. "I'm just saying it's not exactly party material." I should have spoken up then. Should have asked why he kept comparing me to her. Should have demanded respect. Instead, I swallowed it. The reception hall was glowing when we walked in. Assigned tables, place cards. I spotted ours immediately. Table 2, right near the dance floor. With his parents. I felt relieved. That relief lasted all of 30 seconds. Nick waved me over urgently. Talia was standing beside him, radiant in her dress, like she belonged there. "There's been a seating mix-up," Nick said quickly. I looked down. My name was printed clearly between his and his father's. "What mix-up?" "Talia was placed at a back table," he continued. "She doesn't know anyone there. She'll be miserable." My stomach dropped. "So," he added, touching my arm like it was a favor, "would you mind switching with her?" I stared at him. "You want me to give up my seat with your family? So your ex can sit here instead?" Nick's expression hardened. "Don't make this a thing." "She fits better here," he said flatly. "She's outgoing. You won't mind being somewhere quieter." I glanced around. His family could see us, hear us. This wasn't private. "Plus," he added, lowering his voice, "she's been going through a rough breakup. She could really use the family atmosphere." I looked at Talia. She gave me a sympathetic smile, the kind that says, "I know this hurts, but you'll understand." In that moment, everything snapped into focus. I wasn't his partner. I was his placeholder. "If that's how you feel," I said quietly, "then enjoy your evening." I turned and walked away. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I just left. I didn't hear the music fade as I walked out of the reception hall. What I heard was the blood rushing in my ears, the hum of something inside me finally shutting off, the part that kept making excuses for him, the part that kept hoping I was wrong. Nick called after me. "Linda, wait, where are you going?" I didn't turn around. I walked past the ceremony site, past the glowing string lights, past people laughing and clinking glasses, and straight into the parking lot. My hands were steady as I unlocked my car. That surprised me. I thought I'd be shaking. Instead, I felt calm. Numb, but calm. I sat there for a moment after starting the engine, staring straight ahead, letting the weight of what had just happened settle. Then I drove home. My phone started vibrating before I hit the highway. I silenced it. By the time I pulled into our apartment complex, I had 7 missed calls. I didn't check them. I changed out of my dress, sat down on the couch, and let the quiet wrap around me like a blanket. My dog, Milo, padded over and rested his head on my knee. He'd always been more attached to me. Animals notice things people pretend not to. Just you and me, huh? I whispered, scratching behind his ears. I finally listened to the voicemails around 10 that night. 7 of them. The first was annoyed. Where did you go? This is ridiculous. Come back. The second was apologetic, but not really. I'm sorry if I upset you, but you're blowing this out of proportion. The third was irritated again. My mom keeps asking where you went. What am I supposed to tell her? By the fourth, his voice cracked. I didn't mean it like that. Talia said maybe I was too harsh. Please answer. The fifth was angry. You're ruining my cousin's wedding. Everyone's asking questions. The sixth was cold. Call me. We need to talk. The seventh, left hours later, was tearful. I messed up. I see that now. Please, just talk to me. I deleted them all. The next morning, I woke up to 40-plus text messages. Nick, his friends, even his brother. Some accused me of being dramatic. Others begged me to forgive him. One friend I'd met exactly twice told me I was throwing away something good over one misunderstanding. That's when I did something I should have done months earlier. I opened Nick's social media. The pattern was undeniable. Photos with Talia everywhere. Adventures, inside jokes, public affection. Meanwhile, I was practically invisible. I spent that Sunday deep cleaning the apartment. Laundry, closets, anything to keep my hands busy while my brain caught up to my heart. Monday, I went to work like nothing happened. Nick called 3 times. I declined all of them. That evening, he showed up at the apartment. I was cooking when I heard the key in the lock. He still had one. He looked wrecked. Red eyes, rumpled clothes. We need to talk, he said. No, I replied. You need to leave. He stepped closer. Milo moved between us and growled softly. I made a mistake, Nick said quickly. The seating thing was stupid. I was stressed. Give me your key, I said. He froze. What? Your key. You can't be serious. Over one fight? You publicly replaced me, I said evenly. I'm done being second choice. That's not true. I chose you. Because Talia didn't, I said. Silence. Give me the key. He placed it on the counter with shaking hands. I love you, he whispered. No, I said. You love what I provide. He left. The harassment started after that. Different numbers, late-night calls, messages through friends. His mother called me at work, accusing me of being childish. His aunt messaged me about forgiveness and family loyalty. I documented everything. 10 days after the wedding, Nick showed up again. This time, I didn't open the door. He pounded, pleaded, tried. Please, he shouted. Talia ditched me. You were right about her. I need you. I sat on the couch, Milo pressed against my leg, and waited him out. The locks were changed the next day. After the locks were changed, something unexpected happened. The noise stopped. Not immediately, not all at once, but slowly. The calls became less frantic, then angry, then sporadic. One final voicemail came a week later, sharp and bitter, accusing me of being cold, of abandoning him when things got hard. I saved it, not because I planned to listen to it again, but because it reminded me why I had walked away. For the first time in 2 years, my life was quiet. That quiet felt uncomfortable at first. I had built my days around Nick, his schedule, his needs, his moods. Without him, I didn't know what to do with the extra space. So I filled it with structure, with things I could control. I joined a gym near my apartment. Nothing fancy. Free weights, cardio machines, the kind of place where no one cared what you looked like as long as you wiped down the equipment. I started going 5 mornings a week. My alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. I took Milo out for a quick walk, then headed to the gym. The routine was grounding, repetitive, honest. Every rep was effort. Every mile was earned. Nick had always complained about early mornings, said I was inconsiderate for waking up before him. Now I was loud on purpose. On non-gym days, Milo and I ran through the neighborhood, long routes that left us both exhausted and happy. He'd needed more exercise for months, but Nick was always too busy to help. Now it was just us. No resentment, no negotiation. The changes came faster than I expected. I lost weight, gained muscle, stood straighter, looked people in the eye again. I hadn't realized how small I'd made myself until I started taking up space again. At work, I leaned in. I threw myself into a massive security infrastructure upgrade project, new firewalls, encryption protocols, cross-office coordination. Complex, demanding work that required focus. Exactly what I needed. 6 weeks after the wedding, my boss called me into his office. Linda, he said, closing the door, I'm promoting you. Team lead. Significant raise. My own office with windows overlooking downtown. Not bad for someone who'd been called boring. I also reconnected with friends I'd slowly drifted away from. The ones Nick had always dismissed as immature. Game nights, hikes, real laughter. That's how I met Ethan Miller. It was on a weekend hike organized by a mutual friend. Ethan was easygoing, grounded, kind. We walked together naturally, talked without effort. No comparisons, no tests. When I told him about my promotion, he high-fived me like it was the most natural thing in the world. We started seeing each other casually, slowly, healthily. 3 months after the wedding, we went to a friend's birthday party downtown. Nick was there. He looked different, smaller, less certain. His eyes widened when he saw me with Ethan. Can we talk? He asked. No, I said calmly. Enjoy the party. He begged anyway. Told me Talia had used him, ghosted him, that he'd finally realized what he'd lost. You made your choice, I said. I made mine after. I left with Ethan. 4 months later, I heard Nick lost his job. Talia moved cities. His parents were embarrassed. As for me, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Chosen. By myself.